Hello and welcome back. Now it's time for Ascelia Pharma and CEO Magnus Corfitzen. Go ahead and do your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Ludwig. Great to be here and looking forward to updating you on Ascelia Pharma and how we are moving forward on bringing medicine to patients with rare cancer conditions that need better solutions. In my presentation today, I will be making forward-looking statements. What we do in Ascelia is that we identify, develop, and commercialize novel drugs that address the unmet medical needs that are abundant within the rare cancer area. In our pipeline, we have two drugs in development. We have Orviglance, which I'm going to be spending most of the time today talking about. Orviglance has recently completed phase 3 clinical development and is now moving to the registration phase, which is the final step before commercialization and becoming available to a broad range of patients. Another program that we have in our development is Oncoral. It's ready for phase 2 development for the treatment of solid tumors within cancer. We are based in Malmö, have been on Nasdaq Stockholm since 2019. So first, I'm going to talk about Orviglance, our lead program, and I'll start with why we are so excited about Orviglance. First of all, Orviglance is a first-in-class product that makes a very significant difference for a number of patients in need of liver imaging with renal disease, severe renal disease. That is the only product directly serving this patient population. The addressable market opportunity this translates into is $800 million. And we're very optimistic that the product will become available to patients because we have completed 9 different clinical studies, all with consistent positive safety and efficacy result. Most recently that we announced in May, the pivotal phase 3 study. I'll come back to that later. It's not enough just to have good data and showing that the drug works. It's also important to be able to manufacture and supply. We have commercial scale manufacturing available, so we will be able to supply patients around the world. And now we're moving into the regulatory phase, stepping towards the commercialization phase, and we have announced we will be making commercialization with a partner, and that is a process that is ongoing and that we are optimistic will lead to a good partnership for the future and for the benefit of patients. First, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what problem is it that we are solving. I touched a little bit on that earlier, but here's a bit more deep dive. Cancer is unfortunately very frequent in our populations. And within cancer care, liver metastasis is a major problem. That means cancer originates in an organ and then it spreads to the liver. Very often the liver is the first organ for metastasis. So it's very important to be aware whether it's a local tumor or it's metastatic, something that spreads around the body, has a huge impact on how to treat the cancer. Very often the liver metastasis is also what kills the patient. It's not the primary tumor, which can sometimes be removed surgically, but here you can have, if you detect the liver metastasis early, you can make the right treatment for the patient and the outcomes will be better. So how are doctors managing this today? They do extensive medical imaging of the liver, and for cancer in the liver, MRI, a technique called MRI is the most sensitive and best method. To get the maximum value of an MRI procedure for liver imaging, you need to inject today a gadolinium-based imaging drug, and that works well in most patients, but for patients with severe renal disease, this has been associated with nephrogenic systemic fibrosis, which is a potentially fatal side effect. What we do very differently with Orviglance is that Orviglance is an oral product. It's powder mixed in a small glass of water that the patient will drink prior to the imaging procedure. So it's not an injection, and it's based on manganese. Manganese is a natural trace element which we all have in our bodies in very small amounts. It's not you would say a foreign element like gadolinium, which is a toxic heavy metal. So it's a very different safety profile, and we don't have any gadolinium-associated risks. So with Orviglance for our target population, we can provide high-quality imaging without any of the gadolinium-associated risks. So In May, beginning of May, we announced the phase 3 data. It's been a long study, it's taken a while, but we have the data and the conclusions were very clear. Orviglance is significantly better than unenhanced imaging, so an imaging procedure without an imaging drug, which is the comparator that we have agreed with the FDA. The evaluation of this is being done. All the patients in the study were evaluated by 3 independent radiologists who looked at all the images and gave them image scoring. The success criteria is that 2 out of 3 are successfully demonstrating that Orviglance is better. In our study, we had 3 out of 3, and we had a very, very high level of statistical significance supporting the strong efficacy of Orviglance. The safety profile was consistent with previous studies, which is some transient mild to moderate gastrointestinal symptoms, which is perfectly expected in this population. So we were very pleased with that, and no serious adverse reactions in the study. So on the back of this is the pivotal study. It's the most important study in terms of achieving the registration. But we have, as mentioned earlier, 9 clinical studies completed to date with high level of consistency on safety and efficacy, giving us a lot of information to support why this is a good product for this patient population. That's going to be extremely helpful once we move into the regulatory process with the FDA. So the process with the submission is putting all our information together and making it available in the format that the FDA wants. So there are different components of that very significant large application, which is the clinical data, it's the non-clinical data, as it's the CMC, the manufacturing and control data. So the process and the milestones that we have communicated and that we remain on track is that we have the clinical study report from the Sparkle study available early Q4 this year. Then we will have a pre-submission meeting with the FDA, which is a meeting a company will typically have in advance of submitting, agreeing on the final things in terms of how to structure various parts. This is a continuation of the meetings and interactions we've had with the FDA in the past, and we look forward to having that meeting in Q1 and announcing results there. And then the submission in itself will happen during the middle of next year. So very excited about this process, moving Orviglance from development stage to regulatory phase, and beyond that is coming out to the broader range of patients. So the broader range of patients translates into an addressable market opportunity of $800 million on an annual basis in a very focused segment of the patients that have poor options today. What we've also said is that we want to commercialize with a partner. We will not be building commercial infrastructure in Ascelia, but rather leverage those from a partner and get, with a smaller investment, get good returns on the many investments we've made in Orviglance development throughout the years. So I'd like to share a little bit about our thinking in terms of what this means. So I've been speaking about partnering from the perspective of Ascelia, trying to change a little bit and say from a partner perspective, how are they looking at Orviglance? And when they see Orviglance, and they have, obviously, these companies are very different, but what they look at is that now they have a de-risked asset. We have a very comprehensive, say, clinical data package, non-clinical data package, based on 9 studies. We have an orphan drug designation, and you say have had good interactions with the regulatory authorities throughout the year, which means that we believe our likelihood of getting approved based on the data is very good. That is something I think most partners will appreciate. There's also a high level of unmet medical need. All the products today have black box warnings for the target patient population that we are targeting. So the value that Orviglance brings to patients, to doctors, and to payers is quite significant and well documented in our extensive market research. Another thing that is very important is the commercial infrastructure needed. So pharmaceutical companies comes in many sizes and shapes and forms. What is important is that we are targeting the large hospitals, which means a potential partner would be a partner having a sales force, commercial infrastructure that can address those large hospitals. It's not a company with a huge sales force that needs to go out to every single general practitioner, regular doctor. it's the large hospitals that are the key accounts for this product. And that makes a difference in terms of what kind of partners are relevant for Orviglance. And when we think of, take this one step further, then talking about who could these, what would be some common characteristics or potential characteristics of these partners. It would be companies that obviously are commercial stage and have a focus in terms of commercializing to hospitals, that understand how you get on the hospital formulary and you have a sales force or infrastructure that will support getting in front of the right doctors at these hospitals. It's also companies that are in you could say, areas that are relevant for Orviglance. So Orviglance has you would say, impact in a lot of different medical specialties. Obviously radiology, because these are imaging procedures and it's a radiologist performing the imaging procedure. But these patients that we target are also, most of them have chronic kidney disease, which means that they have an ongoing relationship with the nephrology, the kidney doctor, and that's also a very important stakeholder. Could also be the oncologist, so an oncologist sales force, because these patients are most frequently referred for a liver MRI because of a cancer in the liver or suspected cancer in the liver. So those could be relevant, you could say, therapeutic areas for a potential partner that would make a good match to Orviglance. And also, this is not a bulk product. This is a high-value product, which many of these hospital-focused companies are used to. So we think this is adding some flavor, so people have an understanding of what kind of potential partners could we expect to see in the future. So we're very excited about this, working, could say, alongside a company that share our vision on Orviglance, how it can help patients, and have a common understanding about how we can make this a successful business. So just recapping in terms of the 400 medical accounts that have around 75% of the procedures in the U.S., the amount of procedures annually in the U.S. is 100,000, which sounds like a lot, but in the overall healthcare system, that's actually a very focused and limited number. Based on our extensive work engaging with payers to understand what is the pricing potential of Orviglance, there are also a number of innovative diagnostic drugs that have been launched and reimbursed, and some of them have been tremendously successful in the marketplace. We believe a price per dose would be in the order of $3,000 to $4,500 per dose. So we think this is a very tangible, clear opportunity that we have ahead of us. A little bit on the unmet need, because what we say is that the products out there all have a black box warning, but doctors, even with the black box warning, even with the risk, these patients are in the hospitals every day, and how do the doctor deal with that? So this piece of market research tells a little bit of the picture, right? And here, what they tell us is that the vast majority of these patients will have an MRI without an imaging drug. What we demonstrated in the phase 3 study was that Orviglance with 3 out of 3 readers was significantly better and with a good safety profile. We also have some doctors using a lower dose, which is not, you could say, approved, but because they have a high need for a better quality image, but they want to have the risk of using the drug anyway. And some doctors need a very high quality image because of the certain situation. But there we could provide high quality image without exposure to the gadolinium risk. So we think this is a very encouraging sign. This is an unmet medical need that is demonstrated in clinical practice today, and that's where Orviglance can make a difference. We've also asked these doctors about if a product with the characteristics that we described with Orviglance, if that was available, would you want to use this? And here 84% of them say, yes, we'd like to use it. We think this is a good product for these patients. So that is very encouraging, and we continue to engage with the medical community. We're working with some of the leading key opinion leader and radiologists in the US. And this is from an advisory board meeting we had in New York, where we discuss a lot of different topics within liver imaging, and where these are some of the foremost experts. So very excited about engaging with them and working towards bringing Orviglance to patients. Another channel that we have in you could say kind of our pre-launch activities is the presence at in medical science journals and conferences. So we have had a number of you could say some papers and potentially more coming out in the future. So demonstrating with published peer-reviewed articles made by prominent radiologists that we could have, that there's a strong data for Orviglance and that how it can help patients. So very excited about this, and as we at some point hopefully will partner with another company, we have put the groundwork in place in terms of many of the commercial preparations that they will be able to join and move forward with. Switching gears a little bit here briefly on Oncoral. So Oncoral is a tablet therapy of irinotecan, which is a potent anti-tumor agent. It's available today as an infusion, typically given every third week. The toxicity is quite high, but the efficacy is also good. But toxicity is a key issue with this, as with many other anti-cancer drugs. What we can do with Oncoral is that instead of giving a very large dose every third week, we can give it tablets on a daily basis. We believe that can give us can give the patient a better efficacy as well as better safety because of the lower peak concentration. We also think that there are some great opportunities, and what we want to pursue is Oncoral in treatment of gastric cancer together with Lonsurf. So Lonsurf is a product that is doing about $500 million in revenue. It's a tablet therapy made by Taiho Oncology, and it's used in gastric cancer and colorectal cancer. This animal study shows that using irinotecan, which we use in Oncoral, together with Lonsurf, has synergistic effect in treatment of gastric cancer. We have a small clinical collaboration with Taiho Oncology in terms of doing a phase 2 study where we will study Oncoral and Lonsurf versus Lonsurf alone. If we can demonstrate a benefit there, that would be very, very interesting. That is just the first part. The first study will be in gastric cancer, but there is potential in a lot of other different cancer types where irinotecan could have a good effect. So a very significant opportunity for Oncoral going forward. I'd like to round off briefly just mentioning the ongoing rights issue that we're doing. We are doing a subscription period from August 20, and we will end it on Tuesday, which is September 3rd, raising up to 105 with a guarantee level of 70. So that funding will give us strengthen our balance sheet. It will allow us to meet our regulatory milestones that I mentioned before. It will also allow us to move forward on the relevant commercialization steps, but also provide us a balance sheet that will support making an attractive deal with a partner. And then we will clean up and pay half the convertible that we have with Fenja Capital. So this is a very interesting process, and we look forward to completing the transaction and moving forward, delivering on these milestones. So, and here I'm running out of time, I see, with Ludwig, but I think these are really the key milestones on the regulatory side. The clinical study report from phase 3, beginning of Q4. We will have the conclusion from the pre-submission meeting with the FDA in Q1 next year and submission mid next year. And in parallel, we'll be working on finding a commercialization partner for Orviglance. That is you could say, key focus. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for a good presentation, Magnus. So my first question is if you have any competitors within this non-gadolinium niche. I mean, it's obviously a lot of problems with gadolinium. So do you have any competitors here?
We don't see any direct competitors. I mean, you say what the market research we had also demonstrates is that there are some workarounds. You do an imaging procedure without gadolinium, and that could in one sense be a competitor, if you will. What we can do for that particular case is that we can provide high quality image with what we think is a very attractive safety profile that would lead hopefully to better outcome for the patient. So we think that is one way to think about it. To the best of our knowledge, there's nothing in the manganese space, the non-gadolinium space, in late stage development in the MRI for liver. So I think it's we are really leading the change, and what we see also in the industry is that there is you could say at this stage an appreciation that we cannot continue to use gadolinium not only because of nephrogenic systemic fibrosis, but also brain deposition, environmental issues, and other things.
Right, perfect. And I was also wondering if you could elaborate on your decision of only targeting these patients with impaired kidney function. I mean, there are plenty of more patients, but initially you're going for them.
Yeah.
Why is that?
We think there is a very distinct need in this patient population. And we think the best way forward is to focus on patients where we provide a very high level of value on a per patient basis. If we were, if we have had another development strategy going to all patients, that would be more, you could say, competing head to head with large companies that have been in the market for years, if not decades. So we think that's a different approach. We think the focus of high quality imaging with a good safety profile, we think that is paramount. And we will start by targeting the patients who are most vulnerable and where the benefit of each dose of Orviglance is the highest.
All right. So it will be easier to get to market also, I guess.
Yeah, and we can be much more clear about what is the value of Orviglance. How can we help these very vulnerable patients?
Yeah. And you mentioned this briefly in your presentation, but are you planning to have any interactions with the FDA ahead of your submission of the NDA? And if so, will you share this to the market?
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue with the FDA is a long dialogue. So it starts, early in the development, and you have a number of interactions, and they have a number of questions and feedback that we have been listening to and incorporating to the best of our ability into the development program. Before you send a submission, which is really a massive undertaking, a lot of documents, databases, all kinds of things, there is something that the FDA has, which is called a pre-submission meeting, where you go through how are we going to structure it, what is it that we're going to put in here. And this is even coming down to, you could say, data format or statistical analysis. How do we cut the tables and so forth. That's a very good thing to go through. We've had some interactions with them in the past, and this pre-submission meeting is going to hopefully clarify a lot of things, so that when we submit, then we submit it in a format and in a way which is exactly what the FDA wants us to do, so that we don't have any surprises.
Yeah, that's good. And last question. You mentioned the ideal partner, or what partner you could have. How are the discussions going at the moment? I understand that you can't share everything, but can you say something?
Yeah, you're right. I can't share anything, but no, it's an ongoing dialogue, and it's a process that there are lots of discussions that you need to have before you can have a partnership. It's a lot of different questions, because if you think about, one thing is we have said we want a partner, but for a potential partner company, they would look at the asset. They need to understand the asset and the opportunity. They need to do their homework, and then there is you would say also a negotiation phase, which can also be tricky and lengthy. So it's and that's, you could say, part of the reason why we're doing this financing. We don't want to be in a financial squeeze. We want to strengthen the balance sheet to make sure that we are not getting unreasonably squeezed in a partnership, but instead are able to do a partnership where Ascelia takes its fair share of the value.
Right. We have time for one last question, actually. Would it be preferable with a global deal with one partner or several regional? Do you have any preferences there?
No. I think the most important thing is to have partners who are committed to Orviglance and want to make it a success, and where for them this makes sense in their business. It needs to be important for them to succeed. It needs for the people in that team important to succeed. So that we minimize the risk of being this biotech company having a deal with a larger company where you get down prioritized, or you are not getting the investments into the asset that the asset deserves or needs. So I think that's more important compared to how we, if it's one or more or geography,
the
et cetera.
structure
Yeah.
of the deal. Yeah.
So it's really it's about finding passionate people that wants to move Orviglance forward as much as we would.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming, Magnus.
Thank you.